Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday. It's presented by Cinematic Visions and another episode of Danny and Tim's Music Scene. And every 2 weeks we get together on Wednesday, and it is so much fun. And we are going to be all over the map as we usually are, all the way from things that are happening today, and we're starting to open up as far as music is concerned and trying to discover new music, and a little bit of a take from an article that visits on when you move along in your musical journey. Maybe you get to a point where you've got so much music in your head and your memory bank and your encyclopedia of music that do you need new music? And should you really be trying to freshen it up, or do you just get to a point where you can just revisit stuff that you haven't heard from in the past a little bit? There's also news of sort of where the music industry is at with Taylor Swift. That's an interesting thing. We'll look at some blasts from the past like Tommy Two-Tone, and each of Tim and I will talk about albums that had sort of iconic impacts on our musical lives. There's always a lot on the table. We go far and wide, from Gimme Shelter to opening up today and hip-hop and everything else on this edition of Danny and Tim's Music Scene as part of Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, always presented by Cinematic Visions. Let's rock on next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. It's time to visit once again with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And Dr. Brad, your group has reached a significant milestone in receiving a prestigious award.
Danny, we've been honored for the 10th year in a row to receive the 5-Star Service Award from Integrity Doctors. And what this means is that all of our offices throughout Kansas City have made sure to give people excellent chiropractic and acupuncture care, be on time, and do a very complete and thorough job, and have great responses back from patients.
I know firsthand because I was just treated, for instance, today by you. You have a wide range of fantastic services.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies, rehab, anything that you need to keep you well in bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
And I can't say how much it's benefited me in the time I've coming here, upwards of 2 years. My back has improved 100%. And you can have that same kind of treatment too. For more information and your chance for a healthier way of life, visit asfca.com/Danny today. I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you. The bitter cold snap in February was just another intense reminder of how important it is to have a quality heating and cooling company on your side. That's why you need to know about my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Jeff Dillon and his top quality staff provide honest, affordable, and reliable service all year long. Their number one priority is taking care of the customer, and focus on being genuine, always following through and standing behind what they say and do. If you need HVAC or AC repair, it's important you get help from a team of professionals. Dillon's Heating and Cooling's team can walk you through a range of products, the advantages of heating and cooling systems, and ultimately help you find the best HVAC system for you. They're always glad to answer your questions and set up an appointment for an installation consultation. Whether you're looking to upgrade to a newer model of your current system or need one installed in a new home, give my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling a call today at 913-214-0529. That's 913-214-0529, or visit dillonsheatingandcooling.com to answer all of your questions. Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Their slogan is their goal, always treating you like family.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Tim, we move on, we move forward, we take our baby steps, we view the world of music. I can start off by saying that I actually have physical tickets to a show that replace physical tickets of another show, as the Mavericks will play on May 15th at Knuckleheads. But I think this is a sign of where we're still at. They are doing 2 shows each night on Friday and Saturday, and they are doing unplugged shows. I think they figure it was probably maybe too much to try to do a full-blown doubleheader on both nights. Also, I think they're trying to mitigate people dancing and getting crazy and maybe bumping into each other and everything. So just kind of an
good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. But it maybe if it's more of an acoustic type set, maybe that will happen. So that's an indication kind of where we are. And Knuckleheads is just a lively spot these days. A lot of shows.
There are, and I think any venue that can schedule outdoor shows is going to get. Their schedule will get a little busier and increasingly busier. But even, I noticed this, I got a prompt. This isn't my cup of tea at all, but the band Buckcherry is going to play a show at the Uptown Theater in June, which is 8 weeks away or less. So there's an indoor show coming. That's kind of a bellwether. We'll see how many more. I just think it's still at a point where when you're talking about the big venues, Starlight and beyond, that getting those tours going is going to be take a lot of effort, and we might not see anything till September or October, which is getting a little cool for Starlight, but not for Sprint Center, obviously. So I know I've heard, from some promoters who don't want to give any more information right now than they can guarantee, is that there's stuff coming. There's a lot of activity going on behind the scenes right now because everybody wants to get back out. They want just for the spiritual renewal, but also money.
Yeah, and people, they're so promoters and everybody, but we're talking about. What's great about it is we're not talking about professional athletes who are making $11 million or something. These are people who need to work, need to make some money. It's a job. It's not going to make them wealthy. It's a passion. So it's really a cool thing that we're starting to maybe save some people from maybe throwing up their hands and saying, I can't do this. I got to get a real job. I got to move on. And that's great.
And also there was a list going around encouraging people to go to the small venues, go to your independent venues and patronize them because, they're the blood and soul of our entertainment community here, which is true. But I had to remind people, there are a lot of people in Kansas City who's need the income they get from working at the T-Mobile Center or, the bigger venues which are run. So there's a definite significant local economic component of the big shows going well. A lot of people are employed by those companies. So to sort of, reiterate what you were saying, yes, there are people who need the money who aren't just to pay their bills, who are involved in music, live music. And it's going to be good from the top on down, whether it's, Kenny Chesney playing at Arrowhead to the people who work the bars or or other, security at those shows. Everybody needs to get back into that swing, into that, and get those paychecks going again.
Kind of a goofy little knuckleheads note. This weekend, there'll be a visit from Tommy Two-Tone, maybe the purveyors of. Actually, they did have one other top 40 hit right before Jenny Jenny, but one of the two founders of the group is still in it, so it's not just a complete complete farce or so. But that's probably, they always do lists of one-hit wonders and things like that. And while that quite wasn't a one-hit wonder, it's pretty close. And it was a song that I think is a pretty iconic, fun song. And I saw Tommy Two-Tone at I forget what it was called then, but what's Liberty Hall in Lawrence. And I remember the show being quite good, apart from that one song. So, if I was in a different place and my wife was in better health or whatever, maybe we'd go see some Tommy Two-Tone. But that's kind of put a smile on my face when I saw that.
Yeah, you couldn't escape that song for a while. I mean, so they haven't changed their name to Tommy One Tone. Yeah, maybe they should do that. Sorry for the dad joke, but yeah. No, they if it was before it was Liberty Hall, then it was the Opera House. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. Yeah, and it was a disco in between. So I mean, with lighted dance floor upstairs and downstairs for a couple of years during the disco era. So yes, I saw many great bands there. Yeah. Boomtown Rats, Go-Go's, all kinds of bands there. That was a fantastic venue.
Right, and what is now the Free State was a bus station.
Right,
a bus depot. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, we're talking about old songs that we remember and music that we're getting back to and things like that, and Kenny Chesney, for instance, or whatever. And we were talking before we went on the air about a piece that you read a while back at Pitchfork that sort of maybe reflects where people are who are maybe our age or a little bit younger, as far as you want to discover new music. You feel like you're not being fair to broaden your musical horizons, but maybe not.
Yeah, so this article gets into like even the physiology of hearing new music, how the more you listen to music and the more you get attached to certain bands or certain kinds of music, the more your brain wants more of that, So, and like most things, you're a lot more pliable when you're young and open to new things, to exploring new things. But at some point, like for me, it was probably, I'm probably a little bit of an outlier because of the job I had. I had new music just thrown at me. So right. I wasn't paying for it, which made a big difference. But it's also like, when do you kind of stop going, oh, I like this, I should find more music like this, or you read a review and it intrigues you, but how determined are you or inspired are you to listen to a new band? That's been made immeasurably easier now because I can go on Spotify or Bandcamp and check it out. And if I don't like it, I just move on to someone else. But I guess my point is, when people, I've been listening to music, for 50 years, 40 years, and I have so much music now that it's rare that I sit down and go, I just want to hear something I've never heard before, something fresh, something new, because there's so much music that I love that I haven't heard recently that I usually go to that. Right. And I think it's there's a lot more to this story than was reported. And it just raised a question to me, like, when did I really stop exploring new music? I have friends who are my age or slightly younger who do it, and they go deep into into hip hop and R&B, which is, there's so much of that, and are really on top of what's new and who's new. And for me, it's like, I'm really happy if I recognize a music guest on Saturday Night Live these days, because half the time I don't. And so I guess it's also one of the implications for the music industry, because it seems how many new bands coming out now are going to have more than one or two full-length albums, even if they put out a full-length, because do people in their teens and 20s buy full-length albums anymore? I don't even really know. It doesn't seem like it, because you look at the sales and Billboard charts, those are down precipitously. So it's just an interesting thing, because also there's more new music now than ever, because creative people have access to ways to record it and distribute it. So I mean, it's good news, but it's also kind of daunting to figure out. If you're someone like me, I'm open to hearing new stuff. But on the other hand, over the weekend, my wife and I sat around. She was doing work on her computer, and I was just going through Spotify. They have these places you can go to hear new releases and recommended new releases. And I went through probably 40 songs, and there were maybe 10 where I thought, yeah, I marked them as liked, and then went a little beyond that with whoever I had marked. And but I didn't feel really inspired or like, wow, this is completely different. And what I noticed was most of the songs are too long. Like 4 minutes is the new 2 minutes, I guess. I don't know. And there's just a lot of time wasted on, I don't know, atmosphere and just, it's just music. They're composing music with lyrics and not so much crafted songwriting. So anyway, that's kind of my rant. But after I read that, I was like, this is such a big question. And I know labels are trying to figure it out. How do you stand out? And is there room to do something really new anymore?
Well, I think that for me, basically, and you have obviously children, when my kids were still in their teens, I think I was still discovering new stuff, and I would like it, and we'd turn on a station on my satellite radio that they would like. And while I wouldn't like all of it, there would be occasionally bands or songs. But now they're grown up, I'm not around them all the time, so I'm not inspired to do that much of that either. And the bands I discovered when they were, growing, now that's 20 years ago or 15 years ago.
Right.
So it is a little bit. But and you mentioned when we talked before that we're at the 38th anniversary of Murmur by REM, and how much of an impact that album had on you, and just as maybe a reflection of youth, maybe a reflection of the times or whatever, how much you can get into an album or a new band that you feel is fresh and new.
Right. So I was so that record came out in May of 1983, and I didn't hear it until later, until I was in my first semester at KU. I was at a bar called The Sanctuary, which some people may remember. It was like one of the go-to bars. You had to have a membership. It was way back then where you had a membership to a bar to get in. But and I heard Radio Free Europe, which is kind of their big song, their big first, underground indie hits. But I hadn't heard it. And it's like the room, everything stopped when I started to hear that song. So I moved closer to, the sound source so I could hear it better. And then I went up to the DJ booth and asked the guy, who is this? And he flashed me it was REM, and it was from their Murmur record. And so the next day, like the first thing I went to, it was probably Keith's on Mass Street when they were still there, I think. Right. But they didn't have a copy. They were out of it. So I went farther south on Mass. There was a small boutique, indie store. And they didn't have it either, but they did have a copy of REM's first recording, an EP called Chronic Town, which I bought and took home, and that blew me away. So a couple, 4 days later, when stores got the new shipments in, I got Murmur, and I played that record incessantly. Something about it just captivated me. It was, I was infatuated obsessively with what was going on in that record. And this is, I've been exploring music because I was going through the whole post-punk heyday, and I was buying records of bands I hadn't heard. So, but REM that sound was like, it sounds familiar, it sounds old, but it sounds new. And those songs are in my head forever. And I'm thinking, I don't remember a moment like that since. I've discovered a lot of new groups. When I sort of got hit by the alt country, locomotive back in the early 90s, bands like Uncle Tupelo, the cowboy punk thing, that was really exciting, but it wasn't like I knew that music. The music was familiar. It was just a new take on it. So yeah, when I was thinking about that yesterday, because I played Murmur again, start to finish, and even yesterday I heard stuff I hadn't heard before, because that album is just so captivating. It's so, four guys who had no formal music training, they just had listened to a ton of great music, and they put all their creativity into this sound that was just, to me, it was out of nowhere, and it still kind of is. But yeah, in conjunction with that article I'd read, I'm thinking, yeah, that was probably for me the last big, the last time I was like completely sideswiped by a band and a sound. And I remember there was a period of like 3 or 4 years where I would read reviews, and if the band being reviewed got compared to REM, I would just go buy the record and then listen to it and go, they don't sound anything like REM. They got some jangly guitars, but I finally quit doing that. But I was so obsessed with that, I wanted anything that sounded like it, and of course didn't really find it.
Well, my version of that, I guess, is the album Making Movies by Dire Straits, and it was their third album. And of course, they already had a couple, the Sultans of Swing had come out a couple of years before, so it wasn't like they were, a new band. But for whatever reason, the next album didn't really sell that well. Whatever, maybe I just sort of lost track. I liked Sultans of Swing, but I didn't change my world. But when Making Movies came out, maybe it was life circumstance. I worked in a factory then. I used to come back from working at the factory, and I'd play the entire album while I was cleaning up to go out at night, which I did every night after going to the factory. And I played it every single night. And, it's one great song after another. The last track isn't very good, but every other one is. And you just don't, you're at a certain age, as I said, a certain time of your life. Maybe it's the circumstances there, but I find myself every now and then going, why the hell haven't I listened to Making Movies in, a year? And that was the record for me, actually, in that one.
Yeah, I love that record. I don't think I bought the first record. And the first time I heard Sultans of Swing, I associated it with Lou Reed for some reason, because I don't know, with his voice was probably mostly it, and I heard. I mean, it doesn't sound anything like Velvet Underground, but for some reason, that's who I initially associated it with. So I like the first record, and then
it is a good record.
I bought the Making Movies. It was a couple of years after it came out, but yeah, there's so many good songs on that, and he was just writing songs in a way that I hadn't heard before. Lots of narratives about people
that aren't him.
That aren't him. Yeah, it was really. So the lyrics were really appealing too, because the music was just great. So guitar based, and his guitar is, I don't know. I have a lot of friends who were elite guitar players who say, his tone and his way was really influential to them.
And I think that that was something that has always impressed me about him, is the fact that he writes virtually no songs that are about his life or him. Yeah. They're stories about other people. That is pretty unusual, but it is a place and time, and maybe we've each of us has made you think about the album that you indeed were put you in that particular position, and I would really like to discover new music then, but I would say that in the end that probably is the album that fits into the category you talked about with REM. More music chat, which we always enjoy. Coming up next, there's an interesting story about Taylor Swift, which raises issues in the music industry, and a little bit more straight ahead with Tim Finn right here on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, always presented by Cinematic Visions.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Right now, it's more important than ever to support local businesses. And 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence is open and ready to take care of you. Make 23rd Street Brewery part of your KU game day experience, whether you watch the game there or grab curbside pickup for your tailgates or watch parties.
But not just game days. 23rd Street Brewery is great any day of the week, and when the weather's nice, you can take advantage of their heaters on the patio. 23rd Street Brewery is open daily from 11:30 to 9 for dine-in, carry-out, curbside pickup, and can even help with your catering needs.
So support local and visit a Lawrence favorite, 23rd Street Brewery.
Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the Pure Gold oil. And recently, I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkScale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Back with Tim, and we are talking music as we do every other week. He's from In Kansas City Magazine, and you can also hear him on 90.9 The Bridge, and just follow him on Facebook, too. I always say that now because if you don't, you're missing out. And there's all kinds, and he puts out all kinds of cool music things like, this anniversary or happy birthday to this artist. It's a great follow. It's a lot of fun, and it sort of often inspires you probably to get a good listen to something you haven't heard recently.
Yeah, I do. On the side, I write some just short reviews for a record store in town for their website, and so that's introducing me to new records. A lot of them are by artists I already know about, like the Steve Earle, who recorded his songs of his son JT. That's a really good record, and it's burdened by the reason he recorded it because his son died of an overdose. But I also there's this band called Middle Kids that I just heard, an Australian band. Yeah, it's good stuff. So I try to, like the Jean Baptiste record. I think I put that up on Facebook. The band leader for Stephen Colbert, one of my favorite records of the year. Oh man, Danny, you would love it. It's very steeped in like Motown and Stevie Wonder, and it's a lot of just black music and soul, R&B, some Otis Redding-like stuff. He's from New Orleans, so it's deep with that kind of music. So, yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about new stuff, I would definitely recommend that record.
That's cool. By the way, I had no idea what this particular thing was, but it did relate to what we were just talking about in classic soul acts. Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Isley Brothers are getting a gigantic bump from Versus' Easter show. Now, I didn't have any idea, probably even not even pronouncing it yet, but they're getting like 500% jumps in the people
Uh-huh.
listening to their stuff. And I would say that, more people listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Isley Brothers is a good thing.
Right. It kind of goes back to what we were saying, though, because you were talking about your children. My kids, my daughter will text me sometime, and she's like, she's running the sound system at a party, whatever she's at, and I'm playing REM, and I'm playing Four Tops and like stuff that I introduced to them, and it's not contemporary music. And I think even kids in their mid-20s are going back and going, that was such a great era of music. And I don't know if that's good news for anybody, but it's good news for bands like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
No doubt about that. There's an interesting story, of course, a lot of attention to Taylor Swift re-releasing her Fearless album. She re-recorded it, and she did so because of something that's really interesting. I guess Def Leppard did this a few years ago, and this article about it was written in that vein. But her former label boss, Scott Borchetta, and Scooter Braun, the manager who bought the master rights to her first 6 albums, then sold them to an investment fund for an estimated $300 million, and they did so without her permission. And apparently now she is going to re-record all her material that was sold without her consent. So that is a cool story, I think.
And her fans are as rabid and loyal as any. If she says, shut up the old stuff, don't listen to it, listen to the new stuff, they will. They didn't really want to pick a fight with her, and they have. I think it would have been better for all if they had gone to her and negotiated something, because she does not, she does not trifle. She's astute as a business person, and I say bravo to her. I mean, it's kind of like, billionaires, millionaires fighting each other. But so, I mean, I'm not feeling sorry for Taylor Swift by any means, but I think it's more the principle of the person who created the music ought to own it. And, I mean, Tom Petty went through that. He battled his record labels and stood up for his fans. Would tell them, no, you're charging too much for that record. Knock $1 off it, please, at least. And so I just think, bravo to her in principle. Get what's yours, get what you deserve.
Well, the fortunate thing for people like Tom Petty and Taylor Swift is the fact that, yes, they deserve to have all the rights to the music in every way they want, but at least they wrote it. So that's where the real money comes. So if you write the music, you are in a position where that absolutely happens. So that's a cool thing too. And
publishing rights, sure, but for sure.
But I think that probably she will inspire other acts to, not allow things like this to happen, because all through history, the music industry has been, just riddled with stories. You can go back and people I read an article recently about Tommy James, and he got screwed big time back in the day, and he's actually, I guess, in a better place in his life because he's not all that mad about it, whatever, but because he's made a lot of money, and he did write some of the songs. So, but that we've seen this over and over again, that the music industry can be like almost boxing or something like that in all the bad stuff that goes on.
Especially for a lot of the black artists early on, I mean, even of all places, the Sopranos had a little sub story going on in the first couple seasons where one of the guys involved with the Soprano family was involved in music, and some of the descendants of early songwriters, like, we want our cut. You made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars off my uncle or whatever, my grandfather's music, because he was in the music industry, and we want our cut. And there's a discussion about that, and it just sort of eliminated how these artists were completely taken advantage of and got a pittance compared to what they should have gotten for creating the music.
By the way, I sometimes I just blunder onto things. I've talked about the Quora Digest here, which is getting a little old, actually, in my inbox. But I also, for whatever reason, I did something sometime where I get a weekly music thing from The Guardian, the newspaper in London, and it always has quite interesting stuff. That's actually where I saw the Taylor Swift article. But there was an article as well about Mary Clayton there, and she's the person who has the iconic yelling, I don't know what you call it, singing, shrieking in Gimme Shelter. And it's really a fascinating story. So if people go to The Guardian, maybe subscribe to for $1 a month or something, you get a lot of great music news. But she actually has a really terrible memory of that song, which is just some of the most fantastic screaming, singing you can ever, ever hear, ever. And she had a miscarriage because of the song. And so she can't hear the song without thinking about that particular loss. And I think over the years she's making new music too. And
her name is spelled Merry.
Right. Yes. For people who are looking for it, but those are some iconic vocals, for sure. And she was one of the people featured in, I forget how many feet from stardom it is, 20 feet, 30 feet. I think it's 30 feet, about backup singers. That's a fantastic show.
Oh, it is. And I mean, it's almost standard. I mean, when I go to shows, it's the backup singers are consistently, it's usually women, and it's African American women, and they all have history of singing in the church, because I've interviewed some of these background singers, and that's where Stones knew where to go to get the vocals they needed, and they went to a brilliant singer who, I know you have to have more than a voice, which is kind of what that documentary points out, but she could sing as well as anybody back then, and is kind of a footnote,
It is 20 feet from stardom, and the fact that I've made it through many podcasts without barking dogs has been a miracle, but I'm not making it through this one because I'm sure you can hear it off in the distance here. But I mentioned she's making new music, and one thing that we see for people who, are become big-time musicians in this generation, They when they give back, it's really cool. I can't think of anybody who's done it more than Dave Grohl, but she actually is working with Coldplay's Chris Martin and making a new album. And when people reach back and into the heritage of music and then do things that create awareness for artists like that, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. There was a singer, Betty Lovett, who had some success back in the late 60s, early 70s. She was a soul singer, and then her career just sort of it slowed. She did some things in Europe and overseas, but was scraping by. Then in the 2000s, a producer decided she was right, because there was some like a neo soul revival, and anyway, she made a record and has toured a lot since then. It's been like the last 10 years. The first time I saw her, it was at the Hurricane, which is in the Riot Room, which was not the best place for her to be. It was an odd booking in that room because that's a rock club. But she has since played at Knuckleheads. Frank has booked her several times. But to go along with what you were saying, someone heard her and said, you know what, the time is right for you to have your second career. And so she's been, I think might have been nominated for a Grammy here and there. So, but she has been rejuvenated. So it's great for them, and I interviewed her in the midst of all that, and the gratification, I mean, you could feel it through the phone. She was like, well, better late than never. This feels really good. I wish it had come sooner, but I'm happy that it's happening at all.
So to wrap it up, how are you? What's the temperature for you where we are right now as we're headed towards late spring as far as music is concerned?
Yeah, I think nothing could be worse than last year, so it's going to be better. Right. And I think it's going to be wait and see. And I think the variable that no one can predict or control right now is people, and I know some of my fellow music advocates and fanatics are still uncomfortable with the idea of going to a place that's where a lot of people are, and just expecting that people are going to forget or ignore protocol and safety. And And I know, I'll have my second vaccination pretty soon, so that'll make me feel better.
Yeah, me too.
But even that doesn't guarantee anything. So I'm just going to, not to make a bad pun, but play it by ear and see how, to see where, the opportunities might arise, and who they are, and take it slowly. I'm sure that we are going to go to a Lemonade Park show because there's a couple we are interested in. And, outdoors at Knuckleheads, might explore that too. But I might wait and get reports from people because I heard, from shows that were late last year and this year that, I had a guy who goes there all the time said, "Yeah, I'm not ready to do that yet." So, you go be you, but no, that's not safe enough for me. So, but I assume that'll improve, and as more people get vaccinated, the more willing I'll be able to take a chance and not worry as much about it.
Well, I've got about a month to the Mavericks show, and I will see. I'll test the waters there, and then we can talk about that. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Yeah, I mean, I think we know how rabid that crowd is. That's going to be a test. But,
right.
I guess getting the second vaccine is going to be a big step for me. It'll put to rest most of my apprehensions.
Tim, no apprehensions in ever talking music with you. Always fun, and it was great again. And we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, thanks, Danny.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Cinematic Visions, an affordable and award-winning solution for professional media production since 2003.